Well, hi, Brad.
Hello there. I've been stuck between work and family stuff for the last few weeks. Haven't been able to make
Yeah,
it.
that's all right. It's just the same stuff. What are we going to do about this and that?
I was reading a rather good book the other day, and one of the characters quoted to the other character, "Yes, it's not fair. Yes, everything sucks, but we have cookies. Let's take small comfort in that."
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and I
We
didn't have
have
any cookies
cookies.
today, but I did have some rather nice chocolate.
Marvelous.
I thought so. It was pretty dang good. Now I'm
Well,
on a research project where I am trying to find an mSATA SSD that has power fail protection. Doesn't that sound like fun?
for some people, yes.
Yeah, that sums it up right there.
I have a several really good friends who went to Cal Poly Pomona and then became various levels of successful out in the world, and the kinds of conversations that they enjoy, uh
Hmm.
it's like i I feel smarter just listening to you.
I've, I don't, how shall I put it? Those are not the kinds of conversations that I generally start. But when I'm
Mm,
around friends that are geeky in some of the same ways that I'm professionally geeky, then sometimes I do enjoy those conversations where we talk about some of the subtleties of what we're professionally geeky about. Um, and I mean, here's the way I look at it is that some of these things are real challenges. You know, it's kind of like hacking or building things. You've got these challenges that you have in trying to achieve some goal or trying to bypass some problem or whatever it is you're trying to do. And that intellectual stimulation of meeting a challenge, and especially if you're working with a team of people that you really respect to meet that challenge. And I'm sure you've done this on, some of the kinetic builds. When you're working with friends and you're solving problems, that can be really fun. Sometimes it can be really frustrating depending on how things are going, but it can also be, when it's right, it's incredibly rewarding.
yeah, and one of the things that makes it right is when people have some amount of overlapping skills, but also
Mm-hmm.
areas where they are clearly the expert, and they are able to bring their expertise in a way that's not necessarily egotistical, but like moves
Right.
the entire project forward.
I would define it slightly differently. I mean, and I'm
All
not
right.
saying anything differently than what you're saying. I'm just putting it in a different order. A team works best when you've got each person brings something to the project, where there's a skill that this person has and a skill that this person has. And then maybe this person ties things together. And again, the lack of ego or the willingness to put their ego aside to be a team player makes that work.
Yep.
Um, and it's, yeah, I love being on teams like that for different
Yeah.
things. It's just
Yeah.
so incredibly rewarding. Um, the Years ago, I worked for a company where I was part of a three-man team where we had that. We each had our own skill set, and to succeed, we we all had to do our part well, right?
Mhm.
I've got to do something about the horrible lighting in this room. But at any rate, the I don't know how you feel about feng shui, but the head of this company was a real big feng shui guy, and I totally believe that feng shui exists. But I also believe that 90% of the people that try and pass themselves off as feng shui experts have no freaking clue what they're talking about. I have been in some gardens where
Mhm.
the peace you experienced just by walking into the garden was amazing. So feng
Right.
shui to me is a very real thing, but I've met some bozos that think they're feng shui experts. At any rate, this company we worked at, they hired this gal to come through and do a feng shui revamp of the company. And her idea of feng shui was to hang up these posters and these other little things that looked pretty.
Yeah.
And
No.
and the thing was is that she walked into our server room one time and she saw this really stark environment, with these 2 rows of racks and these equipment and all these blinking lights and some monitors on the wall displaying statistics and all these things. And she just looked at it and kind of shook her head and said, how does this room make you feel? And I said, well, I walk into a server room and to me, it's challenges met. It's things that have happened where we've had to work to make it right. It's everything running smoothly that helps the rest of the company run smoothly. And I gave this pattern to her about what a server room, a good one, means to me. And that one was very, very good. And she kind of looked at me with her jaw open, and the guy that was in there with her was just kind of shaking his head.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You realize you just completely baffled her, right?" And I'm going, "What? I'm telling her the truth." I mean, to me, that kind of an environment is, it's the environment I work in. It's the environment where, a proper running server room in a company where there can be a lot of wonderful memories associated with that for me. But, well, to each their own. That's my I won't call it feng shui because it's not that. Feng shui is that garden that I was describing that I walked into. But it's it's a place that has its memories and has its experiences.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
didn't get it, but that's all right.
No. Well, server rooms are probably some of the hardest area and the most challenging space to feng shui because it's basically like we treat it like an appendix. It's a little pocket in the bowels of the company, and there's a lot of information going in and out, but there's no there. It's so dead. There's no there's no life in a server room on purpose. You don't want any life in the server room.
It is a very stark room in some ways until you understand the subtleties of some of the details of what's happening there. But certainly from an aesthetic standpoint, from a walking in and looking at it as art, no, it's not. I mean, yeah. I mean, there is an art that I appreciate when I walk into a server room as a designer of such things. There's I can walk in and see some that are just like, this is elegant in its own sense, and perhaps art's the wrong word. Elegance is a better word. You walk into some rooms that are very well suited to task. They're clean.
Yeah.
They're maintainable. They're right. They are elegant, and and I guess that's the more I think about it, that's the right way to put it. I mean, a good server room is elegant in its simplicity. But I'm a fan of any piece of equipment that's elegant in its simplicity, but yeah.
Good server room, all the wires lined up and stuff like that. And you go to the other one, it's just all big old mangles of cords everywhere.
Oh God. I was the head. So I was the first IT guy for a startup company 10 years ago, a little over. And then I quit after 5 years. And then I started working for the company again as a consultant. And I still had access to the server room. And at one point, about 5 years after I'd quit as an employee, I had a chance to go into the server room with a couple of other people. They wanted me to explain some old equipment that was in the server room. And I walked in there and I wanted to cry because there was shit all over the floor. There were wires draped between the racks, where there was a tray for those wires there for that reason. And then people didn't use it. It was just maybe they had a wire that was too short. So they just kind of went this way. And it was just, yeah, I just kind of shook my head. I pointed to the equipment and said, you know what, guys, I'm out of here. Bye. And actually, a few months later, I quit that company working as a consultant for them because it was just too frustrating.
Yeah.
It's a sad thing. But I mean, speaking of elegance of design, if you will, that, and I'm sorry to say, Robert, I don't know the name of it, but among those videos you sent me, there was a machine that you guys had built that was one of your entrants into the race that looked like it was four-wheel drive with the steering in the middle. Did I have that design right? I need to go back and take a look at those videos because that one looked like a rather elegant design, although I don't know how well it worked in practice. I just saw a couple of videos of it.
You're tricking me into talking about myself.
Well, to talk about projects you've worked on if you don't want to talk about yourself.
Again, elegant design. And I didn't have this, I didn't invent the phrase, but I really appreciate Elon Musk's idea that the best part is no part. And, and I think like my dad designed really, really amazing things. One of them was he was the chief senior designer for the hydrogen side of the space shuttle, which meant that his team had to develop and invent like all kinds of things, including this 17-inch across hole between the shuttle and the engine that had to close. It had to close when it was time for it to close. It had to close. The 17-inch disconnect was a absolutely mission critical component. And he was a genius hydrodynamicist. And this is all still back in the days of slide rules, a lot of it. And he knew how to design the thing so the valve would slam shut when it was time for it to slam shut. NASA didn't feel like that there was enough mechanical advance, that there was no mechanical solution. He was completely relying on the hydrodynamics of the system to do the job,
right?
Because he knew it would. And NASA's like, yeah, no, we need you to add a latch to it. And he went to his team. He's like, you guys, we have to, inside this tube where an Olympic pool's worth of fluid is flowing every 2 seconds, we have to put a latch. And the latch cannot fall off and get ingested into the engines, and it has to not disrupt the flow, and it has to, it's all the, I remember him talking about that at the dinner table for like 6 months until they solved it. Not only did they need a latch, but then the latch needed another latch to hold it open because the fluid flow wanted to pull the latch into the stream. There was just, It just created this entire, and that sat with me. It's like, wow, the best part is no part. You just have to do. So anyway, that particular vehicle, our first vehicle, we just kind of accidentally made it two-wheel drive. Each pilot had their own drive. And when we broke one of the drives, we discovered how marvelous it is to be able to continue to drive.
Right.
So that one, and then we put a front-wheel drive on the trike so that you could climb your way up a hill. And that made me realize that the way these things dig into the sand when you only drive them by the rear wheel, like the front gets pushed in. So you have to do something to pop that front end up. So it's like, well, 4-wheel drive. And then along the way, it became obvious that I just wanted to make the chain lines as short as possible. And making the chain lines
Right.
short means now the brake has to be, inserted inside the chain line and part of the drive system. So, everything, and then the axle is no longer a live axle because the power is going directly through the hub into the wheel. So I can use a relatively lightweight axle because I'm not twisting the axle. It's just floating in the bearings. So, one good choice leads to a whole lot of other good choices along the way. So,
and that's where elegance comes into a design, where all the pieces play together nicely, and ideally, obviously, why it's done that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes that may or may not be true, but I'm going to call it true, is that purportedly Einstein once said, "Make it as simple as possible, but no more."
Yeah. There you go.
Where if you make something too simple, you can break it. But there's a line in there where you can simplify it to the point where it's just right.
Yeah. And when I'm visualizing a project, I am really good at thinking of a solution. But then, excuse me, I know that that's not necessarily the most elegant solution. So I start imagining where I can remove parts.
Right.
And, you learn with every build. Like with this build, there are things I would change. I had to make some choices along the way because I don't use CAD to do my designs. I mean, I rough some things out a little bit now, but most of it is models and just conceiving it. But if I did some CAD work on it, that thing could be probably 30% lighter, and I would have solved one of the major problems with it, which is, for simplicity, the people in the rear are the steerers, which
Right.
means they have to look through the people in the front. And I didn't think about, well, what if I just raised the people in the back like 6 inches? It'd make
just
it
get
so
shorter
much
people
easier.
up front. No problem. Just get shorter people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I knew a guy one time who was 6'3", no, excuse me, 5'3" or 5'4", but his girlfriend was 6'2".
That's awesome.
They made an interesting couple, but where it really worked was when they went on a motorcycle ride together, because she could sit behind him on the motorcycle and see right over his head. It was kind of like, it's the only couple I've ever known when they ride on the motorcycle where the one in the back can see perfectly. It was it worked for them.
Yeah. Well, Lance and Joel, you guys have any questions or concerns or anything coming up about the race or your race, Lance, or anything?
Well, I'm working on getting the volunteer list finalized for what positions exactly we need and trying to find people to fill them. We're not right now. We're basically working on the volunteer list, not the people yet, but the positions we need. And I got a few volunteers names penciled in.
I want to volunteer.
All right.
I've decided I'm not going to try and put an entry in the we're talking, just to be 100% clear, we're talking about the Klamath Falls kinetic race, right? Yes. I want to go, and I don't want to go and just watch. So put me down on the volunteer list. I think I've got your email, Lance. I'll send you an email of some of the skills I have and things I could bring, and see where I fit.
Okay.
Hey, Lance, do you need any ham radio people?
At one point we used to have some ham radio ham radio people with that would follow one would follow the main organizers around, follow different portions of the course, but we haven't utilized them in years. They kind of retired and moved off to someplace else. I don't think we really, at this point in time, with everybody having cell phones, I don't know if we actually need ham radio operators.
Yeah, that's how the hams feel.
Oh,
I thought about renewing my license, but
well, if here's the thing though, like around here, when the fires came, the cell towers have 72 hours worth of battery in them,
If that.
and when that goes away, your cell phone doesn't
Yeah.
work anymore. So I
a
mean,
lot of
these
them have
these-
generators, but around here anyway.
Yeah, that
There were
depends.
there were definitely dead zones during the fires last time, which is scary.
Yeah. Well, that's when
Yeah.
hams are actually important. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you can just talk to the local ham and they'll call out to whoever you need to call out, tell them you're safe, whatever.
Yeah.
Like
When I lived-
I have no
Okay.
nothing against ham radio operators. It's just we haven't used it in years, and
Oh yeah, no problem. I just know some, so I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
okay.
And just to remind you, Lance, it's not necessarily that you need the ham radio operators. They love opportunities to practice their skill. So it's not really for you. You're giving them an excuse to play.
Bring out their toys and
Irrelevant,
play.
yes.
Yeah, when I lived in Sonoma County for a while, well, actually, before my family life got too busy, I used to work with the Sonoma County Races Emergency Services ham
Oh,
radio group. And I have in the past done search and rescue work. And that I actually may start doing again up here in the wilds of Lake County, but I need to lose some weight first, but I'm working on that. Can you believe that? I guess it's been 3 years ago. I was skinny, or well, at least fairly skinny, reasonably skinny. Not quite Robert skinny, but skinnier.
I feel very proud of every pound over 165 that I managed to put on. And I know that doesn't fly well in a lot of circles when you.
Can't tell people that.
I am not proud of any pound I've put over 210. I'm a fairly big guy, so 210 is a good weight for me. Right now I'm around 260.
Well,
I think
good
a lot
luck
of
to
people
ya.
have that problem with the quarantine.
Well, mine started before the quarantine, but the quarantine definitely didn't help.
Yeah.
Aw, yeah.
Well, I'm a computer programmer, so I sit all day anyway, and so
Yeah, but then you get on your machine and that,
yeah.
that kicks you in the butt and gets you in shape.
Right now, I'm fixing I found a problem with one of my machines. I'm trying to work on a fix on one of them. The wheels I have on my wooden one, they're wooden wheels, and the cross members are moving a little bit, and so I'm going to put a little scab on the outside on both sides to finish it together better. So
Wow.
Do you
Those
find
are-
that
I
the
was-
wood works well? I've never really. I used to build a lot of stuff out of wood, but I never thought to build like a bicycle thing out of wood.
yeah, my majority of my sculpture is made out. One of my sculptures is made out of wood, even the
Uh-huh.
wheels. It works okay. Of course, a good strong 2x4 weighs a lot more than a 1 inch square tube, metal tube. So
It floats though.
well, yeah, sort of. Both half submerged in water.
Yeah. Well, if you lose the pontoon, it'll never fully sink.
right.
Yeah.
And my metal sculpture, my AKA Little Red, as they add more stuff to the sculpture, I thought, well, I need a lower gear ratio to get up that hill. And so I bought a really big sprocket and I put on my axle and I realized it's too close to my cross member, so I can't get the chain around it. I haven't figured out what to do there yet.
Oh man. Yeah.
Make a
That's
little in your cross member.
I thought about that or moving
Yeah.
my axle forward. I'm not sure what yet.
Okay. How many teeth on the gear?
It's 60.
Oh wow.
nice.
It's a good.
That's
It's
a
like
big
9
one.
inch diameter. It's big.
I couldn't find bigger than 52 just in off the shelf parts.
Well, I had to order it online.
Yeah. I was just looking at bike shops and stuff, and nobody had bigger than 52.
No.
Well, it's a not a bicycle gear. It's
Oh, okay.
it's a number 40 chain.
Okay.
Whatever. So it's
Or industrial and bicycle sized, or
yeah.
Yeah.
whatever. 40, yeah, 40 somewhere in between what you would see in a bicycle and what you'd see in a motorcycle, isn't it?
It's 0.5. It's half an inch pitch, which I think is the same as a bicycle chain, but it's a lot thicker.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have some motorcycle chain, but I've never really used it. Everything I've made has always been with bicycle chain. So far, I've yet to regret it, but I'm wondering when that day will come. If it gets any heavier into the mud pit, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that was a happy accident is I worked at a shop when I was building the 4-wheeler and had access to a laser cutter, and I could prototype my parts in plexiglass and fit them to the axle and make sure that when I ordered water jet cut parts that they would be, ready to go. And that was huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would not be able to build this vehicle now because I don't have access to those equipment. The boss was great. He's like, keep playing with all the stuff. I want you to learn this equipment. I want you to know what it can do. It's like, all right, you
I will
bet.
do that.
I love that attitude. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was into it. The shop kept expanding. We had a good crew at the time, and he went and he rented another unit in the same, complex, and he didn't really need it yet. It just came up available. And I'm like, could I use that space until you need it? And he's like, sure, go right ahead. It's like, yes. So there's some pictures in our stream of this big empty space and this 16 foot long rig getting assembled in it.
Got to use what you can.
Right? These magic moments, magic times comes together. Yeah. Having a 4-person rig is a profound challenge because first of all, you need 4 people.
That's my problem.
And yeah. And then you get, it's like you tell people, yeah, let's drive up to Eureka or Klamath Falls or Port Townsend. And they're like, I don't think so. And it's like, but it's so glorious. It's like, I have other things to do with my vacation than pedal around and get muddy. It's like, what do you think? What?
But on the other hand, from a design standpoint, it seems like a good size.
Yeah. I
Or,
thought so.
From the standpoint of having enough horsepower, if you will, to get through some of the sand and some of the other funk places, and maybe a little heavy for the water. I don't know if you had to cut back. Can you cut with the rules? Can you go to only 2 people for the water portion and leave half your crew on shore, or is that within the rules.
You can, but you won't lose your Pell or your Ace or whatever they call them in different races, because you have to have all your crew throughout the entire race.
Yep.
Oh,
If
okay.
But if you're just going for fun, sure, leave half your crew
Right.
blind somewhere.
Well, so that pretty much answers my question. The answer to my question is realistically no, from a rules perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure there are some people that do it just for the fun. And if I did it the first year, I would be in that category.
Yeah.
And it's more about the sand than the water.
Yeah.
Water
Yeah,
is
the sand's
so
the hardest
buoyant.
part.
Yeah. The sand is definitely the hardest part. Or the mud, sand or mud. Both of those
Well,
are
I'm
like
sure, but
just-
wouldn't having the 4 people from a torque standpoint outweigh literally the extra weight of having the 4 people? Or am
So there's if you there isn't real okay. Most engineering design problems, you have a fixed mass of some sort that, like, no matter what you're going to do, you're going to have to start with at least 50 pounds of stuff. And then as you add things to it, you can, it starts
Right.
being more elastic.
And each person's going to have, the extra pedals and the extra gears for that person. So you're going to add probably 30 or 40 pounds per person just on top of that initial 50.
Yep.
Right. And that's the intuition that Brad's having. What I can tell you is it is very easy to build a vehicle that weighs 300 pounds per pilot. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
No, I could see that. And that's not including the pilots.
Right.
No, not at all.
And it doesn't matter how many pilots you have if it's 300 pounds per pilot. The torque doesn't, it's like, so what? Like, it doesn't matter anymore. You're not getting up that hill.
Yeah, it weighs as much as a small car. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
Right.
So the goal, the 4-person vehicle is 105 pounds per pilot with the art. So
Right.
we're at a sweet spot. If I could get it down to 80 pounds per pilot, which I can, I've got to rebuild one of the floats, and then it'd be closer to like 80, 90 pounds per pilot. That would be phenomenal. The lightest vehicle ever was Alan Krause, and it was 67 pounds for his rig, and it was sand capable and water capable. And he was like it was Mercury's messenger service, and he really was just the fastest ever with that thing. So, like, it
67
can,
pounds is pretty impressive.
yeah, it is. Yeah, he's a good engineer.
Well, and part of it too is that when you start going to some designs, your material cost goes way up because you're using aluminum or fiberglass or carbon fiber instead of steel, and
So our 4-person rig is almost powerful and light enough that one of us can rest, like going up hills. If it's designed to be able to be extensible, if I wanted to, I could build another section with 2 more pilots. And at that point, we would have enough extra power that we could have a barnacle and complete the course successfully.
Get half an hour on your time.
Yeah. Woohoo. It would cost us that half hour. Trust me. But I mean, we don't really have barnacles on any of the vehicles anymore. It's
except for Rusty.
What are barnacles? What are barnacles? I mean, I'm familiar with the a barnacle on a ship, but
It's a
you know.
pilot that doesn't pedal, so they're just
Ah.
dead weight. But
Okay.
if you have one on board and they do the whole course with you, then you get an extra half hour added back to your time.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
If you think that's worth it.
Right.
I can't. I'm having a hard time envisioning that be time positive in the end. But
Yeah, I think the minimum is 90 pounds. It has to be for the barnacle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to the
And they
Rusty Pickle guy, and he has this gigantic pickle, and he says it weighs over 90 pounds, so they let me call it a barnacle.
Wow.
oh, so a barnacle
That's awesome.
doesn't have to be a person; it could be part of the artwork.
The rules say it does. I didn't argue with him.
Oh, okay,
I mean, he dressed it up like a person. I don't know.
okay. And it weighed
We love-
minimum weight, so hey.
Yeah.
We love Rusty Pickle. That is such a great rig. It's like the amount of courage it takes to take that thing like into the water. I'm like, what are you thinking?
Yeah,
Well,
he's fun to
Gotta
talk
look
to.
this
I like
thing up
him.
yeah. Yeah.
His whole
Ooh.
attitude towards the race is great. I just love it.
Yeah.
It's like I might
He
make
gets-
it. I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah. He's got the spirit down. Yeah.
I still remember one time I was timing the race coming out of the water at Eureka, and so I'm watching the vehicles come in, and I see this guy, dog paddling basically, coming up toward the ramp. I'm like, what the heck is this guy doing? And then he gets close to the ramp, and he pulls a bicycle out from underneath him and gets on and rides out. He was dragging a bicycle. You could not see it. Until he got to
Just
the
dragging
ramp.
underwater.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
dog paddling himself with the bicycle, latched between his legs or something.
Something. I don't know how he did it. Yeah.
He was pedaling it underwater. It's going.
Yeah. The people who say, hey, have you ever thought about like doing a submarine? Like, that's a great idea. I'm waiting to see you do a submarine. Go right ahead.
I mean, it might become one whether you like it or not.
Right.
When I first saw the pictures of the yellow submarine, I was like, no way. I was like, oh no, it's not. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me if it's legal to fly. I'm like, sure. If you can human power a flight, go for it.
Yeah, if they brought that up to like the whole committee, I'd be like, yeah, I think that counts.
Do it.
You can do it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The,
Hey Bob,
there was
I
a
got some
competition.
questions. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that Lance might get this. I don't know if you ever work in C, Lance, but years ago there was a competition in the C programming language. For those of you that don't know what C is, there was a competition called the C Obfuscation Contest.
Oh yeah.
That was designed to write the most unreadable program imaginable. And one year they came up with a special award and then changed the rules. And the special award was best abuse of the rules. And I won't go into the technical details, but this guy just totally did something crazy that nobody had ever considered before. And they said, great, we're creating an award just for you and we're banning it in the future. That's it. We're never seeing this again.
Yeah. They well, my instructors at OIT had a C programming language that printed out in the shape of a question mark. And of course it was, what does this do? Because so you couldn't read it because it's all,
What were you going to ask, Joel?
Yeah, you were going to say something.
So Lori and I are well along in the collection of video for our sculpture in place.
All right.
It looks like my video gal is predisposed to do other things the next couple weeks, so I may not have access to that. And I was kind of banking on it. So, what do you use to edit all your video together? And can I learn it in a week?
No.
You cannot learn it in a week.
Oh, that's not good.
But the Apple product iMovie
Okay.
is sufficiently robust and as intuitive as anything I've ever seen. So, for example, if you want to do a fade from one scene to another, it's like, oh, I see the fade tool. It's like right there.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. You can do voiceovers with it, and it's fairly straightforward how to do voiceovers. You can do green screen with it, and it's fairly straightforward how to do green screen. The downfall is when you get an unknowable number of clips, like it could be 5, it could be 25, different scenes in your timeline. It will crash.
It'll crash.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh,
Yes.
that's an Apple
Yeah.
product? All right.
Yes.
I've used
It is-
Lightwork. I've used a program called Lightworks. It's free. It's kind of hard to. It takes a little while to get used to it. It may be like the other one, but I've never used any other one. So that's why I use my YouTube videos to clip all my videos from my phone onto YouTube.
Lightworks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I use Lightworks as well, but I'm still learning it.
Okay.
There are also Nick Harris, I believe, has a couple of people in his hip pocket. So you could work with somebody who knows the tools and direct them. So if you send Nick a request for help, he will probably be able to help you, and then you can focus on the creative part rather than the editing part.
That's what I was going to do, but that, life has
I'm
other
just-
ideas.
So, Joel, I was just trying to look up pictures of the Rusty Pickle, and I came across a picture of you.
Really?
From Kinetics 2019 on the Lost
Okay.
Coast Outpost. You're wearing a cowboy
I
hat
was
with
there.
the sides pinned up.
All right, cool. Was I with
Now,
Rusty
Brad-
Pickle or what?
I only found one picture of the Rusty Pickle, and I'm not 100% sure it's the Rusty Pickle, but
Was it Rusty?
when I Googled, was it Rusty? It was a little beat up. It had these
Yeah,
square
it's
side
sounds right.
pontoons.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, oh my golly, I really admire you for courageously doing the entire race. So Brad is also like trying to teach himself video editing. So he might, he did not rush to volunteer, but
I noticed.
Well, my work life has gotten a bit busier lately. So
Yes, I
unfortunately,
know that feeling.
and then my wife has pushed that we need to finish the garden so that she can get stuff planted this spring, and that's taken up a lot of my weekend time.
Yeah.
And I do owe her a garden, so I'm it's not like this came out of the blue. It's I don't know, perhaps I was willfully ignorant of where we were going to need to go. Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
We're losing spring. We're not going to be spring much longer.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, we've
I just
gotten
didn't
pretty
want-
far along. But anyway, I would be happy to. Oh, I don't know how I could help, but I mean,
I just
We
wanted to
can
make
talk
sure that
afterwards,
you
Joel,
had
and
the
maybe I
chance to
can
say
help.
no.
thank you.
I mean, I may not need any help, but I don't know. I'm just kind of scrambling now. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to make this myself. Shoot. Okay.
Well, honestly,
so I'm
in my
just seeing what people
experience,
do.
which, yeah, in my experience, it sounds like Robert has more experience than I do. Part of it depends on how sophisticated you want to get. If you've got a bunch of
Yeah.
clips that you want to slice into, I want this part of this clip, this part of this clip, this part of this clip, and stitch them together and add a voiceover, that's pretty straightforward. And I would think
Right.
that, you could probably learn that and do that with iTunes or iMovie
Okay.
without too much screaming troubles. When you start getting into fades, that adds a little bit of complexity, not too much. When you
Yeah.
start getting into green screen and having, parts of
I don't
videos
think I'm
overlay
gonna
on
be
tops of
doing
others,
that.
that starts getting a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
But just stitching together videos, there's a few different tools that I've used in the past that will let you do that without a great deal of complexity.
Okay.
The biggest problem I've had has not been with the tool. The problem has been that the videos some of them are one format that the tool doesn't understand, and I have to find some way to transcode it into the format that tool will understand. So the
Mhm.
biggest problem I've had doing that kind of simplistic video editing is getting the videos into the tool.
Okay.
And if
Yeah.
they're all coming from the same type of source, and thankfully with phones and things have gotten a little bit more, I don't want to say consistent. Yeah, I guess I do. They've gotten a little bit more consistent, but on the other hand, I was playing with Lightworks the other day and the video imported, but the audio didn't. And
okay.
Googling around and looking at it, there's this process I have to go through to clean up that particular video source to make the audio work.
Okay.
Blah.
Yeah. I don't know. The few times I have made videos in the past, I'm like, I don't think I enjoy this process. This is not my career choice right here. But
Right.
I've had people and they're like, oh man, you should make YouTube videos. And I'm like, yeah, I've talked to people that do that for a living or whatever, and they tell me it's about 60% video editing. The rest of it's making content. But yeah, it's editing.
Well, and those
you gotta
are
love
people
it.
where it's their own equipment that they're generating the video from generally,
Yeah.
so their video input stream into the editing process is hopefully consistent if they're using the same cameras
That's
every
true.
week.
Yeah.
So their job from that perspective should be pretty straightforward. But on the other hand, some people are really picky about getting just the right slice or getting the right audio, because the other problem you have sometimes is audio mixing to make it so that one video, in the resulting video, they all have about the same audio level. You wind up having to tweak that a
Yes.
little bit to
yeah.
get that right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And fortunately, most of the tools make that. Well, I don't want to say that. It's one of those things that once you're familiar with how to do it in the tool, it's pretty easy. But I've had problems with some tools figuring out exactly how to do it.
It ends up looking like the BBC episodes where when you're indoors, it's one way and you're outdoors, it's another way. It's like, am I still watching the same show? How come Doctor Who is like all like grainy and you can't hear him anymore just because he stepped through a door? Yeah.
Oh, actually, they. I don't know if you guys watch Technology Connections, but he did a bit about exactly why that is, and it was really interesting.
It's the unions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also the different types of cameras and like what you can actually bring with you outside and inside and all that.
It is super fascinating. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was amazed about all that stuff that goes into just making a television show. You never really think about it. Like, oh wow, this is complicated.
Well, they've spent years trying to make the result rather, transparent to us. That there isn't a process there, that it's just you're watching a slice of life, even though it's not.
Right.
And they've spent years both perfecting that process and I suppose to some degree training us to believe the result. But yeah.
What gets me on some of those reality shows where I'm in the woods alone. Yeah, but you got a cameraman and a producer and 10 other people with you.
You see the boom mic? It's like doing this.
Yeah.
The Bear Grylls ones crack me up because here he's sometimes he'll have a camera in his hand and he'll make a show of the fact that he's holding the camera and talking to the camera like he's alone, and he'll place the camera down and walk away from it and talk about what he's doing. And then other time, so he's trying to make it look like he's alone. Other times the camera will move and he's still acting like he's alone. So
Right.
wait a minute. At least be consistent about it.
Suspension of disbelief. Yeah. Well, I really got into making our red herrings video last year. I kind of went a little insane. I like my creative dive in part just like got completely wrapped into how far can I push Premiere with the limited time and limited skill I've got, and what can I create? And I mean, I'm super happy with it. I watch it even today and it's like, oh, it's still parts of it are painful to watch. It's like, ooh, and yet it's super entertaining still for me. I'm sorry that making videos isn't enticing there, Joel.
I don't know. I like building machines. I don't know. Video's
Yeah.
not my thing, but it's fine. It's fun. Like I like the final product, but the work to get there is like,
It's fascinating how different people are.
Right. We
Yeah.
each have, and Joel, I think you came in and part of this, we were talking about things that we find that some people find fascinating. I was talking about conversations. Well, Robert started it, but I was talking about conversations with people who are in the same technical area as me, where sometimes we dive down into these really obscure problems, but yet we find it fascinating because we understand the subtleties, and some of the subtleties are fascinating to us, but other people are like, what, why are you guys even here? It's
Yeah. Well, I'm a computer programmer, and we get these requests that, oh, this should be easy to do, and it goes on and on. I said I could do that in half an hour. There was another part that's really easy, but that's almost impossible. They don't get it.
Yeah. But I thought of it, and I know I'm not as smart as you. So since I was able to think of it, clearly it's doable. It's like, no.
That's when you start trying to explain NP complete to them.
Yeah.
Oh no, don't do that. I think the biggest problem. Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say the biggest problem for me on the video is, I spend all day doing work on the computer, and then when at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go do something with my hands. So to know that, oh, my new creative thing after work will be more of the same. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's terrible. Aw.
Yeah.
So, Joel, in this picture of you on the Lost Coast Output from 2019, there's you with a young lady that I think I know.
Yeah, you know her. I've talked to you before, Brad.
Oh, are you okay? So you're. I didn't recognize you at first.
You can't see her because she's below the camera right now.
She's pretty short. I agree.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you
I'm
remember.
sorry to say, Joel, that when you and I have met in the past, this just totally tells you that she's more memorable than you are. I'm sorry. Because I recognized her and I didn't recognize you, so I apologize for that.
I appreciate that. I prefer it that way.
Yes, you and I have met on a couple of occasions on some of the events with the
at the Obtainium Cup. That's
the
right.
Obtainium Cup. Yeah, the whole Obtainium crew. That's right. Okay. Yes, you and I have met before.
Yeah. You had the train.
Right. I have the train.
I love that train.
And actually, I was going to send a picture of it to Lance. I don't know if there's room for a ride-on train to run around in something up there as well. But I was going to throw the train out there.
That's the right thing to do, is just make the offer and see if there's a fit.
Right. I won't be the least bit hurt if there isn't. But on the other hand, if there is, I'd love to bring it. It means I need to slap a couple of new batteries in it, but I have batteries. Right now I have a surplus of batteries. I managed to get about 12 kilowatt hours worth of lithium iron phosphate industrial cells from a client of mine.
Oh, wow.
Used, but in good shape. But so I've got a couple of 24 volt Ely, which are Japanese brand cells that are 48 amp hour, that if somebody needs, I've got a couple of spares that I could give out there. But they're kind of, there's no control electronics. You do need to add some sort of battery management to them to be able to use them. You can't, they're not like lead acids where you can just, well, there are ways to use them mostly safely without a battery management unit. That as long as you undercharge them to a certain degree, you can use them safely.
Let me talk to Lori
Are
about
there-
that. She'll probably have a use for that, actually.
Okay. Well, there. I don't know if you have my email. It was thrown around earlier. I'll put it in the chat window.
Okay.
And tell her I said hi.
Okay, will do.
I think I'm trying to remember the spelling. Any rate, they're actually 25.6 volt, 48 amp hour industrial.
Sounds good.
They're nice batteries though. But I need to, the other batteries I have, I need to clean up a couple of them and put them in the train because my old lead acid batteries that I had in the train finally gave up.
Mm-hmm. Those are heavy too.
Yeah, no, that's if switching to these lithium iron phosphate, I'll get about maybe not quite twice the range, and about overall probably about 40 pounds lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. It might be about the same weight because I'm putting in two 48 volt packs to replace one 12 volt 75 amp pack.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that right? What did I have in there before? Yeah, because it's a 24 volt system. So it was two 12 volt 75 amp hour batteries that I had in there before. And I'm putting in two 25.6 volt 48 amp hour cells. So I'm going to wind up with a 96 amp hour battery pack compared
Nice.
to a 75 amp hour battery pack. And with the lithium iron phosphate, I can drain it deeper without destroying the battery than I could with a lead acid. So overall, that universal sign.
Yeah. You got no clue.
Oh.
Did everybody get
thanks for that.
vaccinated?
I'm half vaccinated. I've got my next one in a week and a half.
I got my second shot today. So
Yep, all vaxxed up, waiting for my orders from Jeff Bezos to come in through the.
Yep. Yeah. My friends are like already planning like weekend get-togethers because they're all vaxxed. And it's like, oh, I'm only half vaxxed.
Let's get the Johnson & Johnson. You done in one shot.
Sonoma County did a kind of terrible job advocating to get doses in.
Huh.
I don't know. Yeah. Government is a lot about advocating for your constituents, and we missed a boat somewhere along the way. But we've got some doses in now, and we're vaccinating people. So that's good.
Well, Lake County, surprisingly, because this is not what I would normally call an organized place, their vax process actually went pretty well. On the other hand, the entire population of Lake County is less than half the population of the city of Santa Rosa. So it's
People were
perhaps an easier
driving
job.
people were driving to Lake County from Santa Rosa to get their vaccines.
Really?
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have to say they did have the process down pretty solid, pretty straightforward. So I'll give them kudos for that, because there's not many other places where I would give Lake County kudos.
Right? Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But, hey, I'll
No,
praise where they earned it.
They did. They did a fine job getting vaccines in to people. Good job, Lake County.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that drove somewhere else to get it because it wasn't available. They're like, "Oh, I went all the way down to Fresno." Like, "Oh, why? Just wait a
On the
few
other
weeks,
hand-
man."
On the other hand, and again, maybe because it's the state capital, Sacramento had no problem. My brothers were vaccinated almost 2 months before me,
Wow.
living in Sacramento. And it was like, you guys suck. But, oh, well.
I'm with you, Joel. I was like, I will wait my turn because there's plenty of people out there who really need this. And I'm probably fine to get my vaccine, when it's available to me. I wasn't not going to drive to Fresno.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I have some friends that are displaced. They sold their house and bought a house that was still under construction, and then the construction was delayed. And so they've been living. They normally live here in California, but they've been living in Nevada for the last few months because that was where they could get a place to stay. But they drove back to California to get their shots.
Wow.
Is Nevada having trouble doing that, or
I don't know if it was because of that or just because they had their legal address was still in California. We didn't talk too much about it. I got the impression, though, it was just easier for them to get it here.
I went to the local hospital, Cloud Falls, so pretty easy.
It was funny for me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my healthcare provider sent me a letter like months ago saying, "We're very sorry that we never got any vaccines yet." And then eventually I just gave up waiting for them. I just went down to Walgreens. They're like, "Oh yeah, just sign up." I'm like, okay. And it's just like a week or two out. I'm like, oh, there's plenty of appointments. You get that. And then I got another letter from my healthcare provider like a week ago. And they're like, "We're very sorry. We still don't have any vaccines." They were very passive aggressive. It was almost like, "It's not our fault. You need to blame the government." And like, okay. You should tell everyone to go to Walgreens. I mean, they have them. I just thought it's a weird world I live in where I can go to basically a convenience store and get something, but my health insurer doesn't have it.
Right.
Yeah, that's profound. Yeah. What a lovely note to end tonight's meeting on. Thanks, Joel.
Oh man, I'm full of positive vibes.
Well, I could repeat the quote I gave earlier before Joel joined. That would add in on a positive vibe. So I was reading a book the other day, and one of the characters said to the other, "Yes, it's not fair. Yes, things suck, but we have cookies, and we can take small comfort in that."
That's true.
I love that quote.
The good quote.
Or ice cream. Or a beer.
I feel like saying amen at the end of that or something. Yeah.
Right. You can take that and statements like them and turn them into a religion. Yes.
Oh, I think we do that already with the kinetics rays.
Yeah. I think we need more religions that are built around positivity. Now I'm thinking.
The rest of the world has those, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's been thought of.
Do you guys have you guys ever heard of Mark Manson? I think is his name. Yes. Or dang it, I gave away the other guy's book. Mark Manson writes a book and a newsletter. No, not Manson. Just a minute. I'm trying to look it up so I get it right. What was the title of his book? Fine. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
I like the title.
And it's a psychology book, believe it or not.
Huh.
It's about sort of another way to live your life, sort of, kind of. And there's another one that I'm drawing a blank on, even though I own the book. I own 2 copies of the book, but I gave away the hardbound copy, which would normally be here on a shelf somewhere. So I'm drawing a blank on that. But both of these books grew out of a change in the psychology profession. I want to say about 15 years ago. Some bright psychologists realized that up until then, psychology had primarily been about diagnosing and trying to understand people who are mentally sick. And this guy said, are we doing this wrong? Should we be trying to understand the people that are really healthy, mentally happy? And it's kind of stupid that, how many 100 years of the psychology profession or whatever, it was just 15 years ago that somebody said, are we doing this backwards? So there's been a significant change in psychology books that have started becoming out about, what happy people do differently, what successful people do differently, and it's Mark Manson's stuff, and that's the guy who wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He's a little more blunt than some others, but his stuff is really good. I mean, some of his newsletters where he's talking about, kind of common human flaws and ways to get around them are really, really good. So I strongly recommend signing up for his newsletter. And unless you're somebody who is easily cynical, in which case some of his approach might be a little bit, sometimes could inspire cynicism, because he does talk a lot about things where humans do something stupid. But he talks about, generally speaking, the solutions to that, and how you can be better than that. But it's the other guys, and now it's bugging me that I can't remember the other book. And I know I have a copy of it in my Kindle, but unfortunately I've got lots of things in my Kindle. And I don't have it terribly well organized.
Well, I think Rick and Morty is one of the most genius cartoons ever, like programs ever invented. So I probably have a healthy relationship with cynicism.
You would have to.
Are you one of those people that think that it's the smartest show and everyone else just doesn't get it because they're too stupid?
I don't think people are stupid for not getting it. I think I think there's other reasons if they don't get it, but it really is like amazing. Like I keep telling Dawn, oh my gosh, we have to do a Rick and Morty theme for the kinetic race. And she's like, no, never, ever, never, 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 never. I'm like, Birds Planet.
Oh God. It sounds like me and Lori. I want to do all these kind of like sort of dark themes. And she's like, I don't want to have anything to do with that or any of the TV shows that you like.
Oh, do you want to team up? You and me?
I'd be into the Rick and Morty theme. We'd have fun with that.
Yeah. I could be either one. I could be Rick or Morty. Either one. I'm totally.
So that's
it
the
might
problem.
be funny.
I think we're both tall, so that doesn't work as well.
No, we could figure out a costume to make it work. It's like, what if, like it's just this much of us is the Morty character.
Oh, we're just like sticking out of a thing. Oh, we're probably chopped in half because of some portal accident. I don't know.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm not comfortable with this, Rick. I think we have to go back to the ship right now.
Well, some people say when I drink, I do a great Rick impression. So sometimes I talk when I belch.
Oh my god. I entertained myself far too much right then. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to this crossover.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, my brain's going in directions right now that are
we have to finish this one. We got like 2 weeks left, and yeah.
You're always talking shit about my plans, Rick. It's something I want to do. When we do one of the things I want to do? We're always doing what you want to do.
That is way too accurate for comfort.
Yeah.
Pretty spot on. I think you got your character.
Oh boy. All right.
I'm sitting here thumbing through my emails, trying to find the newsletter from the other author that I was trying to remember. And of course, my business emails are all very well organized. My personal email inbox, I'm afraid, is a bit of a disaster.
That's impressive, though. Good job.
I've got at least one of them organized.
Yeah.
Now, I try and keep my business stuff pretty. Eric Barker, that's the other one. Barking Up the Wrong Tree is another really good book, and it's easy to remember. It's easy to read.
That's true.
Easy to read because it's kind of little sections of different things. But it's Barking Up the Wrong Tree by Eric Barker, and he's got another newsletter. You can go to his website. He doesn't publish the newsletter as often as he used to. Since he finally got the book out. But it's another really good book and much less cynical about kind of human psychological traps and how to get around them to be a better person. The other book that came before this and may have been one of the inspirations of this. My brain is fried.
It is Friday.
It is Friday.
It is Friday, yes. Friday.
If Lori was here, she would have high-fived me.
What's that?
If Lori was here, I would have got a high five for that one.
I'll give you a high five.
All right.
Do you two still live in different apartments and cross over once in a while, Joel?
Oh, no. That has been one of the positive things of COVID.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that fixed that problem for us.
Okay, because I remember talking to you guys and you lived in different apartments and there was
Yeah, the commute was just too far to our respective jobs, so that wasn't great, but problem solved. Thanks, COVID-19.
Well, and her job, unfortunately, she's probably going to have to start commuting again pretty soon, isn't she?
Oh yeah, she's already started. But that's okay.
Oh, okay.
I don't have to be in my place anymore, so it's all good.
Oh, I want to let you guys know that we're going to talk on Tuesday at the board meeting about starting to rotate flat tire hosts, try and get some new voices involved. Don't know if it'll stay at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock works for the current crew who show up, but there's other people who want to show up, and we'll have to keep massaging it so that we get new input, new voices.
Yeah. For some reason,
Sounds good.
your email goes into my spam folder. I've been trying to figure out how to unspam it, but I can't figure it out.
What's your email tool?
I use Thunderbird.
I haven't used Thunderbird in years. Yeah, there should be a way to whitelist particular email addresses and say this is not spam.
Yeah,
But
I have
the spam filtering may be done by your upstream provider, and
Oh.
it may already be in your spam folder by the time you get it via IMAP down to your computer.
that could
Who's
be
your
too.
email provider?
I go through well, it's wins.com, so it's a separate. I can't remember the name of the provider now. It's
Friday.
I want to say 2 cows or something. I can't remember who it is.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I know that if it's a Google domain, it will dump it into the spam folder for you, and then you'll download it already in the spam folder. So you can't change it on your mail tool. You have to change it up on Google. So that may be true in your case as well.
Could be.
Sorry, I'm dropping into my professional mode.
Right.
Yeah, MailChimp was like, oh, we'll do all this stuff. It's like, yeah, but your emails go into the spam or the promotions. Like, well, sometimes it'll go into promotions on my Google, and then sometimes it'll come directly into my actual inbox. Like, what? Is there a rhyme or reason here? I don't know.
I've never found one for Google for that. That's the reason I turned off the social and promotions mailboxes and just have a single inbox.
Yeah.
I prefer that. I don't think that social
Yeah.
bit worked very well. Not for me anyway. I guess for some people it works. I don't know. To each their own.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Thanks for tonight. I really enjoyed chatting and hearing more stories and knowing what's going on in your worlds. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys all have a good evening. And Joel, good to see you again.
Our paths will cross again.
I feel bad that I recognize Lori and not you. And
Don't worry about it. That's how I like it. I'm doing my job right.
Well, the other thing is Lori is a very distinctive individual,
Don't I know
it? Yes.
Whip smart. Yeah. Just,
yeah.
Whew, yeah.
Yeah. Very, very unique person.
Yeah.
Any rate, have a good evening, gentlemen.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you later.
Thank you.